Let me introduce today's speaker, Ms. Urvashi Datta. She is a professional from the field of psychology, having a work experience of 15 years in the field of higher education and psychological counseling. She has completed masters in clinical psychology and postgraduate diploma in guidance and counseling. Her core area of PhD research is positive psychology. She has worked with the best educational institutes in Bhopal and has been working with Jagran Lake City University for the last 4 years. She has also worked actively with local and national organizations like Aadhaar Digdarshika, Bharatiya Counseling Psychologist Association. She is a registered counselor with National Career Services Government of India. With an active interest in research, she has participated in various national and international conferences, trainings and workshops, and has organized workshops and training programs at various levels as well. Personality enhancement of adolescent, creating a conducive environment to grow, in influence of positive traits on life on adolescents and adults have been her focus areas. So, on behalf of World International School, I welcome Ms. Urvashi Datta ma'am, and today she is going to enlighten you all with the with her knowledgeable thoughts and views. Children, you can post your questions in the chat box, which Urvashi ma'am will clarify after the session. So all of you are requested to put your question answers in the chat box if you have any doubts. So let us make it an interactive session. And now I'll ask Urvashi ma'am to please carry forward. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. First of all, any questions that are there, please put them up on the chat box. I know this is a sort of a one-way sort of interaction that it seems. We'll try to keep it as interactive as we can. If I could just request Jayanta sir to please allow me to share my screen so I can run the presentation for the students. Sir?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
No, I needed to run the presentation. So I was asking Jayanta sir to help me to allow me to share my screen. He would
Okay,
require.
it's sharing. Fine, fine, fine. Okay.
You have a PPT, Urvashi ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Just 1 minute. Huh?
Yeah. So in the meantime that we have the PPT up and running, uh, we are here to speak about the profession of psychology and how it works in the current scenario. What are the various professions that are there in psychology? So what do we do? First of all, the first thing that comes to mind when we are talking about psychologists is that they are mind readers. We are not mind readers. We have a very scientific approach to the study of human behavior. We have various methodologies, various processes through which we study why an individual is behaving in a particular manner. Beyond that, beyond human behavior, we also have a section of study of research where we look into the behavior of animals also. But primarily, when we talk about psychology, it is the study of human behavior. Then there comes another little bit of confusion as to who are psychologists and who are psychiatrists, whether there is a difference between between the two of them. Yes, there is a difference between the two of them. Psychologists are people who work with people, taking care of their mental needs, whereas psychiatrists are people who are doctors. They are qualified doctors who have an MBBS degree, who have an MD degree in psychiatry, and they are allowed to prescribe medication to you. Psychologists are not allowed to prescribe medication to you. They can help you with counseling, they can help you with therapy, and that is their core area of working. So there is a major difference between the two. A psychologist would be coming to you with an MA degree. He would have a PhD degree, right? Whereas a psychiatrist would have an MD degree. So that is how the two professions are different. What do we do when we study psychology? So the goals of psychology mainly are to describe any form of human behavior that is happening, to explain as to why this is happening, to be able to predict as to if this is happening today, if a particular person is behaving in a particular manner today, what is he likely to be doing in the future, and to control. There are certain times that you will find that certain behaviors of people around you are not conducive to the environment that they are living in. They are not according to the environment that they are living in. So some things need to be changed. For example, somebody is very aggressive. For example, somebody is very anxious. There may be students out there who get very anxious when they know everything, but when they finally sit down for their exam, they start feeling very anxious about it, right? So they need to learn to control that or change that behavior of theirs. So one of the major goals of psychology, where it all ends, all of this research that we do, or all of the study that we do in psychology, this comes to an end at being able to predict behavior as to when a person is going to behave in what manner, and to change that behavior if it is not according to what it should be like. Why study psychology? And this is quite an interesting question. There are a lot of people who come and say, we want to study psychology because we want to mind read other people. Please, it is not about mind reading. I cannot emphasize that enough. If and when you wish to understand how the human mind works, right? How people behave, why do they behave in this particular manner? How is the mind working? There are various mental processes that go on in the mind. It starts with sensation of things that are happening around you. You have five basic senses. These five basic senses help you take in information from your environment. Then this information is changed into things that are sent into your perception, whether you want to attend to that information or not, right? Then you need to put this information in your memory. Like, you are attending a class, your teacher is telling you something, subjects that you find interesting, that information goes into your memory immediately. But there are some times when there is a subject that you don't really like a lot. Then at those times, when you feel that there is some other way that you need to put that information into memory. So there are various processes of memory also happening, right? Then we have things like problem solving. We have personality. That's where one very big area, where we have intelligence also. We have aptitude also that we're talking about. So all of these things, all of these processes that make an individual, that make an individual tick, that make an individual work, all of these things are what you study in psychology. So if and when you want to further your knowledge of what you are like, what you are good at, and how you can help others in becoming a better version of their own selves, that is where psychology comes in, right? And this is useful everywhere. Where, you ask me? So anywhere and everywhere that you are dealing with an individual is where psychology comes in. Whether you talk about social work, whether you talk about sports, whether you talk about economics, management, anthropology, you talk about media, you talk about criminology, you talk about tourism, education industry, anywhere and everywhere that you are working with an individual is where psychology comes in. If you gain a little knowledge about all of these various professions, you'll find that each of these subjects, even IITs and IIMs, they all have a component of behavioral sciences. These behavioral sciences is nothing but what psychology deals with. So we, the fraternity of psychology, the psychologists, we form the basis of everything that is happening in all of the other industries that are out there. And the list continues. The list is very long. I just put up a few of the major streams that are there. So we move on to the specialty areas of psychologists as to what are the areas that we work in. The biggest area that we work in is the clinical psychology. This is the reason that people call us the mad people, that clinical psychology is that area where we are dealing with the mental disorders, that is the abnormalities of the mind that are present in an individual. So here we try to take into account as to what are the factors that led to this mental disorder happening, what are the symptoms, and how can we treat this. Please keep in mind, please bear in mind, there are all of the disorders that are there, they can be maintained and they can be cured. So if you have a particular symptom of anxiety or a depression or something like that, there is nothing to worry about. You just need to approach a certified psychologist and ask for their help. You will be cured, because we deal with a lot of stigma in this field, and that is why I wanted to get this point across to you, that mental health is not something to be ashamed of. You need to speak about it. You need to just approach somebody who would help you and guide you through this problem, and it can be solved. The second biggest area that we work with is counseling psychology. I have heard that you have a counselor in your school. So I hope that you all would be aware of what a counselor does. What we do is we help everybody who comes to us with a daily life issue, right? When you're not able to deal with certain things that are happening in your daily life and you require some help for that to deal with, that is where counseling psychology comes in. You can see various other specialty areas also that are there. One of them is developmental psychology. Now, developmental psychology is basically, it revolves around the development of a child and an adolescent, as to what are the factors around an individual that help him to become the adult that he is today. We have school psychology. School psychology is producing a conducive environment in the school, right? What can we do to facilitate you in your growing process in the school settings? Then comes educational psychology. This is where we talk about the education and what can be done to better the educational system. Then is social and personality psychology. This is where we study the personality of an individual. What are the building blocks of personality? How does an individual become what he is like, whether he's an introvert, whether he's an extrovert, whether he is an anxious personality, a happy-go-lucky personality, a cheerful personality. You may have friends that you call a bubbly personality. So all of that comes in personality. We have social psychology also. Now, social psychology is where we take into account as to the whole society. How is an individual interacting with the society that he is living in? And how is the society influencing what he is doing? Because you are a part of the social system. So you cannot be devoid of that influence in any manner. So the interaction between the society and the individual who's living in that society is what comes under social psychology. Then we have cognitive psychology. Now, cognitive psychology is where we take care of the mental processes that an individual has, and how these mental processes work, how these mental processes lead to what an individual is doing and how an individual is behaving in that manner. So which mental processes are we talking about? The basic processes that you have, like sensation, attention, memory, we have problem solving, we have logical thinking, reasoning, making judgments. So these are all processes that are part of the cognitive psychology study. Then one big industry that we have under the psychology fraternity is the industrial and the organizational psychology. So if you're interested in the corporate sector and you want to work in the corporate sector, but your interest lies in psychology, this is the path to be taking. Industrial psycho or organizational psychology helps you to understand as to how the employee and the employer interact with each other, and how what can the employer do to make the employee satisfied, and what can the employee do to make the employer satisfied. Naturally, employer will be satisfied when your productivity is high. So what can be done to facilitate this employee moving in a direction which keeps himself also happy, and his excuse me, and the organization that he is working with, that also happy. So when you talk about human resources, when you talk about public relations, when you talk about excuse me, when you talk about behavioral economics, when you talk about consumer behavior, so all of these things become a part of the industrial organizational psychology. Then we have biological and experimental psychology. This is where we do all the experiments with the human beings and the animals. Everybody is safe in these experiments, so please don't worry about that. Earlier, these experiments used to be done only on animals, but then since one of those ethics came on that animal testing is not really ethical in nature, so then we shifted the whole paradigm to human testing and human experimentation. I'll show you a few pictures of how we conduct experiments with human beings. They're all very safe. Nothing wrong is happening with anybody. So that is biological and experimental psychology. And there are a few other areas also which are up and coming areas, and we will just have a glance through these other areas also, but these are the new areas that are coming through. So since we are one of the developing nations, we are still trying to reach to that level, but we do have certain courses available in India for these for pursuing these options if you want to. So art therapist. So if you're very good in drawing, and if you're good in if you have that caliber for expressing things through one of the art mediums, it can be drawing, it can be music, it can be dancing. So being an art therapist is one of the ways that you can be going, right? Then we have forensic or criminal psychologist. Now, why does a criminal behave in a particular manner? I'm sure most of you would have seen CID on the Indian televisions. If you don't see Indian serials, then there are serials like Mentalist. There are serials like Rizzoli and Isles. These are serials where you'll find that psychologists who are working in consultation with primary law enforcement organizations to find out as to how a criminal behaves and why is he behaving in this manner. And all of this analysis is being done so that we can catch criminals before they do the next crime. Okay, so that is what is forensic and criminal psychology. Then we come to sports psychology. Sports psychology is where you're directly dealing with, if you do not have the inclination of being a sports person, but you want to be working with that field, then you may think on sports psychology as one of the options that you can pursue. What you do is you understand the style of the sports person that you're dealing with, right? And then how can you facilitate this sports person into increasing his performance in out on the field, whatever be the sport or the athletic activity that he is involved in. So we work with resilience over there. We work with in performance enhancement over there, right? And each big team of the country, whether it be for the country or whether it be for the international forum, they have a sports psychologist working over there also. Okay, Consumer psychologists. Consumer psychologists are the people who work with marketing, with management, and they take into account as to why a particular person is buying a particular product. Like if you go out to a shop and there is a dairy milk and there is a Snickers bar, which of the two would you be buying, right? And this behavior of yours would be noticed and it would be reported back to whoever is getting this research conducted. So if dairy milk people are getting this research conducted and they find out that people are buying Snickers bar more as compared to dairy milk, where the Snickers and the dairy milk both are kept, so this is a point of concern for the dairy milk people, that people are not buying their chocolate. So that is what consumer psychology is all about, to find out what a consumer wants and to give that to him so that their sales increases. Okay. Then we have aviation psychology. This is one of the most upcoming fields in psychology and the aviation industry. This is where we take into account the pilot's behavior. All of that is happening within the plane and what gets the plane flying and not flying. So which like the travelers that are there, which traveler wants to go to which destination, what is a popular destination, what is not a popular destination, which city you want a flight flying from, to which city you want it to fly to. So all of this is taken into account in aviation. Military psychology is another one, big, very, very big section where generally they do work in very confidential environments. So you will not hear about this a lot. But if you have read about the armed forces in any manner, you'll be aware that we have this DRDO, that is a Defense Research and Development Organization. Under this whole RDO organization, we have another organization, which is the Defense um, uh, DIPR. This is the Defense Institute of Psychological Research. Now, this is where all the warfare, the psychological warfare is being developed. This is all where we work towards bettering the mental health of our military personnel. We have a very large military force, right? If you are aware of that, we are in the top 10 in the world. And because we are always on that nearly fighting mode, nearly war mode with our neighbors, so we need to take care of the mental health of our military personnel. So this DIPR, the Defense Institute of Psychological Research, which works under the DRDO, this takes care of whatever is being done by the military personnel, and how we can better things for them, because they're working in very stringent conditions. There are times when they are working in the Siachen glacier, so the temperature there goes to minus 30 degrees Celsius, right? So how do they cope with that situation is what we take care of in military psychology. So school and forensics and consumers we have also already gone through. So what are the minimum qualifications that you require as a to become a psychologist? You need to have a master's in psychology, and you need to have a specialization in the field of interest. For example, if you want to become a clinical psychologist, you would be required to have an MPhil in clinical psychology. If you wish to become a counselor, you need to have a diploma or a postgraduate diploma in guidance and counseling. So these are some sorts of specializations that you can go for if you want to pursue whichever field you want to be pursuing. I would really like to emphasize here that you'll find a lot of people out there who are just masters in psychology who would say that we are counselors and we are psychologists. Please, if and when you're approaching a psychologist, you should be well aware of what are the credentials that this person has. If you go to a doctor and you're going to a doctor for a heart problem, you will not go to a person who is specializing in diabetes, right? Or who's a general physician, right? And especially you will not go to a doctor who does not have an MBBS degree, right? So if and when you're the similar manner, if and when you're going to a psychologist or you're referring anybody of your known people to a psychologist, please make sure that they have the correct credentials, because if and when you are approaching a psychologist, this psychologist and whatever he's going to be telling you is going to be affecting your life, right? So it is the question of your life. Please don't take it lightly over there. So whether you can be a psychologist or not, right? There are certain skills that you require for that, but these skills are there within everybody. You just need to hone these skills up so that you are better, you become better at that, and that can be applied in helping people if you want to. So interpersonal skills, your interpersonal skills with when you're dealing with other people, your interactions with other people, they need to be very clear. You need to have very clear communication with people. You should not be speaking in such a language or in such terms that what you are saying and what the other person is understanding, they're two different things. Because if it so happens, and then again you're dealing with a person's life, so it can have a very huge negative impact on that individual, right? So whatever you are speaking about, whatever interaction that you're having with other people, if you're able to connect to other people easily, this may be one of the career options that you look at. If you have good critical thinking skills, if you're trustworthy, you need to have a lot of patience when you're dealing with clients in psychology. So if you have that patience, you can think of this as a career option. Then we also need to have a lot of empathy. Empathy is where you are able to identify with what the other person is going through. There are many people who are not able to do that, right? For example, if you're telling me something that you are having this problem, and this is something that has happened in your life, and you're trying to deal with that issue, and I am not showing any sort of emotional connect at this point with you. I can understand what you're going through, and this I'm just here to listen, and if you require my help, I'm there to help you also. So if this pro-social behavior is not a part of your repertoire, then it can be a little difficult to manage that. Then again, pro-social behavior is very easy to develop. The same way that you help people around you that you know, you can expand that skill of yours and help everybody around you also. So these are the few basic skills that that a psychologist can have. Again, all of us have these skills. They just need to be honed, and they just need to be adjusted a little bit so that you become better at these skills. How? Now you can see the center figure. If you can see, this figure comes from one of the most famous psychological tests, that is known as Rorschach. Okay. Now this is a personality assessment test. Now, if I show this picture to you and I ask you as to what can you see in this figure, your responses can tell me as to what your personality is like, right? So although it seems very easy, this requires a lot of training to it. Okay. Now maybe if you look to the top left of the slide, you will see that there are people. There are a lot of people standing over there, and there's this one person who's standing with a lens, and he can see everything that is happening. This is these are one of the technique that we have. This is known as observation. Mind you, it is not as simple as it seems. Again, you require a lot of training. You need a lot of experience in this. And once you do it, once you start learning the whole process, then it becomes very easy. Bottom left corner, you can see this is how we conduct the social experiments, the experiments on human beings. This is one very common social experiment that has happened. Maybe you would have seen it on the social medias. This guy is a homeless guy, the one who's sitting on the right, and the one who's standing on the left, he is giving some money across to him, and as he walked off, this guy's wallet dropped off from his pocket, right? And then it was seen as to what this homeless guy is going to be doing with this wallet. So this is the type of the social experiments that are done. This is just one of them. If you see on the bottom right corner, then this is again a personality test that we have. Now, I would ask you to make a story for this. We are not in that interactive zone, and it would be difficult for all of you to be typing and sending in these stories. But the story that you make based on this picture is again what is going to help me understand your personality. So you remember I told you we are not mind readers. We do not do mind reading. What information you are giving to me is the information that I'm going to be using to decide as to what sort of a personality you have, what sort of behaviors would you be doing, and how these behaviors can be changed. There is another very famous experiment. This was Ivan Pavlov's experiment, where he used to ring a bell and he used to find that this dog used to start salivating for food. So that bell was the cue for him that he's going to get food very soon, right? So these are some of the techniques that we use to study psychology. Okay. Again, I cannot uh, I cannot really emphasize how basic psychology is to all of the streams that are there. Anywhere that you are dealing with a human being, where you're dealing with an individual, is where your knowledge of psychology comes in. So we are even in the process of asking the MHRD, the Ministry of Human Resources Development, a petition has been sent across to them, that psychology and the basic psychology that is there, maybe not the advanced, but the basic psychology needs to be incorporated in the school curriculum also, so that children are better able to understand themselves and their interactions that are happening with people around them. Because everybody is today, everybody, because of all the information technology and all the social media platforms that are there, everybody is facing this issue as to they're very well able to connect with other people on the mobile or through the mobile, but when you ask them to sit face to face, they do not have anything to speak about. They lack completely in their interaction skills. So this is why this subject in itself should be there as a part of, we are hoping that it should come that way, as a part of the whole curriculum design that is prepared for the students. So this is the basic of all of psychology that I wanted to share with you all. If you all have any questions that are there, anything that you would like me to speak about more, anything that you would like me to clarify, I'm ready and open for all questions.
Ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
just a question, that can you
Ji.
please tell me that what exactly is cognitive?
Okay, cognition. See, ma'am, cognition is basically the mental processes. I think the voice is echoing.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. So cognition is where we basically deal with the mental processes. These mental processes are like sensation. We have five primary senses: eyes, nose, ears, the tongue, and the skin. Right? So whenever an individual is interacting, whether it be with his environment, whether it be with people who are around him, he needs to first take in information that is coming from his environment. Right? So this sensation is the first process of cognition that happens. Then once this information is taken in from the surroundings, from the environment, it is attended to. It is decided as to which information is essential for me and which is not. Like we say, pay attention in the classroom. We ask our students to pay attention. So this is because all of when they are sitting in the classroom, they have various pieces of information coming from everybody. The teacher is also speaking. One of their friends is going to be speaking. One of their friends is going to be writing. The fan is making some noise. There's some student who's passing by, or some teacher who's passing by in the corridor. There's some children playing outside in the play field. Right? So much of information is being sent to that child. So now you want him to be focusing on what you as a teacher are speaking about, right? So that is when we tell that we tell the students pay attention. So the second process of cognition is attention. Then when they start paying attention, that this is when they start perceiving. This is perception, the third process. Perception is uh, taking in all of the information, the significant information that is being said. So if the teacher is teaching, for example, you have a science teacher or you have a English teacher, so what is the science teacher exactly talking about? That is what is perception. Then things go into the memory, right? So you have a long term memory, you have a short term memory. वो गजनी फिल्म भी देखी होगी, तो उसमें there was that short term memory loss that was happening, that he could not remember things beyond a particular amount of time. So this is what is memory. There are times when a person has an accident or a brain injury or some trauma, so he loses his memory also. That is amnesia that we generally know about. So all of these things that are helping an individual take in information from the environment, from the surrounding, and then changing this information in coding this information, decoding this information, changing this information, so that we have a complete picture of what is happening in our environment and react to it, because all of our behavior is being determined by what is happening in my environment. So somebody is coming and speaking to me, I am going to be responding to that person, right? So this person coming and speaking to me is a sensation for me. Now I'm paying attention to that person, and now I'm ready to respond to that person. This is perception and response. Okay, so these are the basic processes of cognition that are there. So other than that, we have problem solving also, we have logical reasoning also, we have thinking and judgment, we have creativity. These are all higher level mental processes that are there. So all of this comes under cognition, all of the mental processes that are happening in your mind, which help you to figure out your environment, that is cognition.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
My pleasure.
One more question.
Ji.
You have used one term, that is what I'm not able to get the term anthropology.
Anthropology, yeah. Anthropology is the study of human being in his society in the past time, right? Not in the
So,
current, but civilizations of the past. Like you must have gone through the Harappan civilization, the Mohenjo-daro civilization. So उस civilization में human beings क्या करते थे? अब हमारे पास वहाँ का कुछ written record तो है नहीं. So all we can look at and all we can work at is what is available in the form of fossils or artifacts of that time period. So उसमें भी psychology का use किया जाता है. So जो social sciences होते हैं anthropology के, sociology के, यहाँ पे भी सब जगह इसका use किया जाता है.
thank you so much, ma'am. Children, if you want to ask anything to ma'am, just post it in the chat box so that your doubts can be clarified here itself. Any doubts?
In case there is better guidance required at a later time period, also you all maybe you can speak to your authorities, and those queries could be mailed forward to us, and we would try to respond to it to the best of our capacity. I suppose you have a counselor in your school also, as I know about. So you can approach your counselor also for information. Your counselor will be able to give you information about all the various fields that are there, and not just psychology, related to other fields also. If you require any guidance as to which field or which stream would be the best for you, you can again approach your counselor. Your counselor will help you to figure out yourself and figure out the profession that you want to work with, and whether the two are compatible amongst each other or not. So that is one way of finding yourself and exploring yourself through your counselor, or if you want, if that can be arranged with your authorities, you can write into us also for that.
Okay, Urvashi
Ma'am,
ma'am.
do we have do we have any sort of aptitude test for all these fields? Do we have?
Yes, ma'am. We have aptitude tests related to various fields, and we have comprehensive aptitude batteries also, which can help. One go, you take the whole test, and it gives you a comprehensive picture of all the aptitudes that a child possesses and the fields that he could work with. They are available with us also. You would probably need to figure that out with the management, and you can ask your counselor also to approach that test and use those testing. I'm sure she would be cognizant of that.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much.
Welcome, ma'am.
Garimaji, we've just received two more questions. Can I ask that to Urvashi ma'am?
For sure, sir.
Urvashi ma'am, there's a question from Harshita Rajput.
Ji.
She's asking, can you explain the Rosha activity?
Okay, Rosha activity. Um, See, Rosha is basically it's a personality test. Okay, and what Rosha had done was he was very smart. He did the same game that all of the students used to do. I'm sure all of you have done this. You have an ink pen, right? And we used to drop ink blots onto the paper and then close the copy and make a symmetrical ink blot on our copy. So the same thing was what Rosha did. So he used certain ink drops and he put them at random on the paper. And then he folded the paper and it came out to be a bilaterally symmetrical ink blot. Now, this ink blot is presented to the person who's taking this personality test. Okay, and the only instruction that is given is please tell us what you can see in this ink blot. Now, uh, if you had seen that ink blot that I had shown you at that time, it is not really a specific picture, right? Like that picture on the right bottom corner that was there you could see a lady standing, you could see books also, you could see a horse also. But with Rosha activity, there is no specific stimulus that you can see over there. It's all ambiguous in nature. So whatever when you're taking a Rosha test, what helps over there is that since it is all ambiguous, whatever you are seeing in it is what is actually going on in your mind. So this is how Rosha helps a psychologist. Whatever is the response that you are giving in response to whatever the ink blot you are seeing is what helps to identify as to what is going on in your mind. So there are various types of responses that come out. There are popular responses that are there. There are unpopular responses also that are there. So if you are giving a popular response, you're probably belonging to the normal population. And if you're giving a unique response or an unpopular response, that would indicate a certain characteristic in your personality. So that is how a Rosha works out. I
That's
hope
great.
uh, I hope I managed to answer her question.
Yes, and there is one more question because I think so the young students are really bursting up with very, very interesting questions. One is from Somnath Tripathi, one of our students.
Great.
She's asking them, she wants to know what's the average age of a psychologist, or probably actually to be a psychologist, something on those lines.
Okay, okay. See, ideally to be a psychologist, you need to complete your bachelor's degree, that is a 3-year course. Then you need to complete your master's degree, that is a 2-year course. And depending on what specialization would you be choosing for, if you want to go into the clinical psychology field, you would be required to do an MPhil in clinical psychology. That is again a 2-year course. If you're wanting to become a counselor, that would be a 1-year diploma course, right? So you are looking at a time frame of 7 years for clinical psychology and for 6 years for counseling psychology. If you're wanting to move into the corporate sector, working for human resources or working for multinational companies and such, then you are looking at 5 years, right? Because you just need an MA in industrial and organizational psychology, and then you can move on to working as an human resource executive with one of the MNCs. So 5 year for corporate sector. If you're wanting to work as a freelancer, right, as a freelance trainer. Your education would require again 5 years. Okay, that is the basic. But beyond that, you would require some time to establish yourself as a trainer, right? So you do not call uh, a newbie, a person who has just 1 year of experience. You cannot call him a consultant or a trainer. So you can start working directly, but to call yourself a renowned psychologist, you would require that many years of experience. So you can take a 5 year bracket on an average for you to move into the work field of psychology. So about 22 to 23 years of age is where we start. The pay scale is awesome in psychology. And we have clinical psychologists and counselors. They work per hour on a per hour basis, and per hour the fee ranges from 1,000 to 2,000. So that is how quickly you can start earning money in the field also. And then it gives a lot of satisfaction, because this I'm telling you from my own experience, because when I started working as a psychologist, I was a science graduate. I had no idea what I was doing in my life. And then my uncle told me that, see, maybe this is an option that would be very good for you, so you should explore that. So I went into psychology. I started studying psychology, and it just something clicked in my life, and I kept moving in that direction. And then I realized that my mother had sent me into science because she said, Ki, this is what probably you want to do because you like to help people. And unfortunately, when I look at blood, I start getting queasy with it. So that was not the correct career option for me. So then this came to me. This is maybe this is how you can help people. So a 5 year to 6 year bracket would be what you would be looking at for studies, where you can start working as a psychologist with a good enough pay and with a lot of satisfaction in the work that you're doing. So
That's
Sonia, I hope
great.
I managed to answer your question.
I think we'll take the last question of the day, and it's a little elaborate one. Hence,
Okay.
this is by Siddhi Nandedkar,
Okay.
and she's asking that she's a student of humanities stream and she's bewildered between law stream and physiology and social science. Can you please help her to make a better choice, because she has an interest in judiciary as well as social work?
Okay. So
It's a little
law,
messy.
physiology, and social sciences.
Yeah, so she's bewildered between law stream and physiology in the social science. So I'm guessing
Uh,
she wants to make a choice between either of the two, and she wants to know a little bit about both sides.
Physiology is what you would be studying as a part of the biosciences, biology. Okay, because physiology is what is happening within your body, the physically what is happening within your body. Okay. Um, uh, so that is physiology. So I suppose she's wanting to ask about psychology and social sciences and law. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah. So see, law is where if you really want to just work with people and you want to help people, and social work or working for the betterment of the society is where your interest lies in. I would recommend that you go for one of the social sciences stream. You can go for social work also. You can go for psychology also. You can work with sociology as a subject also, right? Because um, because you are saying that you have an interest in social work, that would put you on the path to working there quicker. Okay. When you go for law, you would be required for a 5 year bachelor's program. Then you would be required to go through a 2 year master's program, and then you need to have that much amount of exposure and training and internship and everything, which would take a longer time duration. Now, see, I'm just giving you a brief overview. I cannot give you a direct answer to this because I don't know you and I've not interacted with you in general. So, because of your interest based in that social work field, is what I'm suggesting, that would be social sciences would be a better choice and a better option for you. maybe you can get in touch with us later on, or get in touch with your counselor, because directly we would need to explore a little bit more about you and your personality, and what are your interests and everything, like because before we can make a decision as to what would be the best. Like right now, a few minutes back, Garima ma'am asked me whether we have an aptitude test. So there are aptitude tests also which help us to find out what you are good at. So if I tell you now that you'll be very good at law, but you're not good at making quick decisions, you're not good at having arguments, or whether if you're not good at being assertive in that situation, so maybe law would not be the correct option for you there. But if you have these skills, then law would be the correct option. So off the top of my head, I cannot really give you a definite answer to this, because it requires a little bit of more in-depth exploration of your own personality first, right? So maybe you can get in touch with your counselor, or with us, if that can be arranged through your authorities, or whatever is the mode of operation in your school. But both of them are equally lucrative jobs. If you are looking at a if you're looking at a more structured lifestyle, that maybe law would be a better option for you. If you're flexible in your lifestyle, and if you're open to challenges, if you're open to new things coming at all of a sudden and coming in, and then you wanting to take care of it, and you wanting to deal with that challenge, maybe social sciences would be a better option for you. So if your decision is just you want to help people, both of them are good enough, right? I can't really say that this is better than this, or this is better than this. But if you're looking at overall satisfaction that you would derive from working with people, social sciences would be the better option, because there is a lot of although there is a lot of scope in law, the legal system in India in itself is backed up very badly, right? So there is a lot of frustration that comes with the field. So if you're comfortable with dealing with all of the politics that goes on in that field, that would be that's one drawback of that. But in case of social status, if you speak about social status of both the fields is equal. You get equal respect in the society if you're working with either of the two fields. At the present moment, social sciences and humanities is the only field of study and only area of study that is shown to have a future in the next 20 years. Management, engineering, law, IT, all of it, this has is all backed up. There are no more work options available there. And 20 years, 30 years ahead, the only stream which is seen to survive all of the changes that are happening in the world of work in the world is humanities and social sciences. So if you want to be the one who's surviving with us, social sciences is the way to be going. Sudhi, I'm not really sure I managed to answer your question. I hope that I cleared a little doubts of yours, but that is as in depth as we can go in based on the information that I have about you. Maybe you can take this. We can take this question later on in a different setting, more one-on-one setting where I can interact with you, or you can interact with me directly. So there we'll be able to better deal with the situation.
She just saying thank you very much, ma'am. Very kind of you. She just messaged that to us.
Thank you so much.